Hello everybody. So if you're here, that means that you want to crimp your brush. Now before we go into the crimping, I want to talk about a few things about crimping an acrylic brush. You have to understand that when you crimp an acrylic brush, you definitely have to be careful, because when you do this, you're gonna run into the issue where you can ruin your brush, and nobody wants to do that. You put in a lot of investment into these acrylic brushes. So let's talk about a little bit about the acrylic brush. You have a variety of acrylic brushes, and this brush, when using NDS Beauty Pro's new aluminum brush here, and this brush in a sense will be a funnel and also the base. Okay, the funnel is what we're going to be crimping. And to understand the acrylic brushes, the majority of the time the acrylic brush is the bristles of the Klinsky hair, and then it's actually going to be put it into the brush about maybe around this amount of length. Okay, there's going to be a sealant in here, a glue that's going to hold the hair together. Now keep in mind, when you do get the brush and you first start, seeing any loose hairs, these ones don't have it. Once in a while you'll see it, because it's just a mechanical error. You can always pinch that off. I wouldn't pull it out directly. I would just pinch it off to leave the root in to hold the brush together. Now this will work for pretty much any brush, but you have to make sure one of the biggest things is that you want to do it with an aluminum brush or an aluminum funnel per se. Some of their brushes are wood handle or plastic handle, but the funnel itself is aluminum. Now you can also crimp with a metal funnel, but do you understand, metal is a lot harder than aluminum. So when you do crimp, it's very sensitive, so you have to put more pressure, and sometimes if you over crimp metal, it's actually going to ruin your brush. That brings us to another topic, is that you can ruin your brush if you over crimp, or you don't crimp properly. So that's why a lot of times companies will sell you the brush, they won't crimp it because they don't want to have a risk of messing up and then having the brush not work for you. So it's really up to the nail tech to really do it themselves. With all the liability is on you. So with that being said, back then when I used to sell acrylic brushes, I used to crimp them myself and I take responsibility. But now at this point, we all know that I don't have the time, and my warehouse has been moved out of state. So I'm gonna go to a very extensive walkthrough for you guys to see how I crimp the brushes, and you can also crimp it in any way you want to. This is how I do it, and it works best for me. For a lot of you guys that are buying my brushes and you're so used to the way I crimp it, this will be great for you, and this is great for anybody that start crimping too. The way I crimp is I don't over crimp it. I definitely make sure that I give myself a little bit room for error. You can go to a nail supply and get it crimped also, but you have to be careful. Crimping is like voiding the warranty. If you buy a brush from me and you go to a nail supply and they crimp it and they ruin it, I'm not liable for that. And the nail supply, they're not going to be liable for that either, because they're going to say, hey, you asked us to crimp it, this is how we crimp it. So I think it's best for you two guys to learn how to do it yourself. I recommend getting an older brush and practicing a little bit first before you go to your brand new brush, right? So let's move forward. We're going to go back to our funnel and then our base. So the funnel's right here, all right? And the tool that I'm gonna use to crimp is gonna be a wrench like this. You don't have to get something like this. This is a heavy duty. Most of the time, your husband or your boyfriend or you have a toolbox or have something. It can be, I recommend a wrench that can be clamped at the tip here. And one thing you have to keep in mind too is that to crimp, you gotta make sure that you're able to get the brush farther in so that you don't ruin your brush when you crimp, okay? So something with a longer nose. Most pliers or wrenches are about this standard size, something even longer. So this is more heavy duty. This allows me to kind of gauge, if you have one of these, how far I can press down. See, you can make the adjustment so that you can never over crimp. So when I used to crimp multiple brushes, as you can see, we go back to the funnel. These brushes are generally the same funnel. So universally, all 12 and up are the same, to 16 at least, are the same funnel. I think up to 18, because of the brush hair, they use the same funnel. But you go down to a size 8 or 10, the funnel is actually gonna be smaller, so you have to be able to make that change in your crimping process. So for me, I'm used to set a specific degree, and then I just go through and crimp all the same size brushes every time. It's locked in, so I don't over press. I just gotta make sure that I position where I crimp properly. So let's talk about crimping brushes. Crimping brushes, pretty much, you can use this brush, you can train it, and it can still give you that kind of you know, oval look. Some people prefer to crimp it. It allows you to train it faster and gets that shape better. So it's up to you. You don't have to necessarily crimp, but most people prefer, or most nail tech prefer to crimp it. So, you know, that just allows them to kind of train it earlier and then get the shape, the desired shape. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna actually, let's start out with this 12 brush. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna just kind of fluff out the hair a little bit. So it is important to do this because you never know. This is a Kolinsky hair brush, 100% Kolinsky. So we're gonna just kind of release some of the sealant. That's just a sealant, which is like a glue base. And then that is gonna allow you to kind of remove majority of it. And you kind of see where the hair is gonna lay. And then you're gonna be able to kind of gauge the grain. Sometimes hair can be, the grain of the hair can be twisted a little bit. So you don't wanna crimp like this. You can, but it'd be high risk. You know, you want to have smooth hair. I like to crimp where the logo is, so when I use it, it's gonna be flat like this. So I'm gonna go in with my plier. I try to do maybe just this bit right here. Some people go farther in. I just like doing this much right here because it allows me to kind of crimp right at the edge, and I just press down lightly. Okay, and even this right there is good. If you're a beginner crimper, just go down lightly, and then you just test it with your monomer and then see the shape if you like it. You don't want to press down too hard because remember, you can't uncrimp this brush, but you can always press down more. So that takes your time. So now once I'm done with that, I'm gonna take my dampen dish out and I'm gonna just add a little bit monomer, or you can use a little bit of alcohol or acetone to clean up the sealant. I like using monomer, it's less intrusive to the Kolinsky hair. To get my paper towel, and I'm gonna just dip my brush in and I'll be able to clean the rest of the sealant out. You gotta make sure that you clean all the sealant out, okay? The sealant is pretty much a glue-based sealant, and it keeps the brush sticking to the hair. Keeps the brush together during shipping right here. So you have to clean it out. A lot of nail techs go back and they just get it wet and then they start using it right away. You're gonna get a lot of buildup. So what I generally do is I just put it in, kind of dissolve the sealant, and I use the paper towel and kind of just push it out. And you can already see the shapes already coming through, right? So this will allow you kind of pre-shape. Even that little bit of crimp right there will give me my, let me show you the side view, okay? See, it's just a tiny bit of pinching right here. Look at that, how beautiful that shape is. That's literally what you wanna do. So every time you use this brush, you're gonna be using it like this, and then you're gonna be reshaping. So let's do a trial. Let's pick up some trial beads. We'll take out I Don't Give a Frap by NDS Beauty Pro. And we're gonna pick up some trial beads to make sure our brush is gonna stay that shape. There you go. Beautiful. That's a nice pearl. And we're gonna just release the bead and just clean it. Because when you release the bead and you see a lot of acrylic stuck to the brush, that will let you know that there's still a lot of sealant in there, that you shouldn't be using your brush. That's why people like a crimp brush. Now, one thing I have to keep in mind, when you do, see this is minor residue, that's normal. When you do crimp your brush, you have to use it based on where you crimp it. Now, if I were to crimp my brush this way, but then I get monomer in and I start picking up my beads like this instead of like this, it would kind of reverse my crimp and make it pointless. So you have to be careful. Remember, crimping your brush will pre-train your brush, but you have, over usage, you have to train your brush the right way. So that's how you would train your brush. Make sure you're using it proper, in the proper direction, picking the bead. And actually every time that you finish with the acrylics, you're gonna clean your brush and you're gonna shape it based on where you crimp it, so that it's gonna stay that shape, and over time it becomes nice and oval, and then it kind of gets trained to be that way. So that is generally how we crimp a brush, and I will repeat that process with my size 14, which is a larger size. Same process. Just gonna break that sealant out. The sealant is like almost like a glue-based sealant, like a solvent. It's not that dangerous to the acrylic brush. Remember, see, this is a more fuller brush. It's 2 sides up. Okay, when you first release it, it's gonna see a little bit puffy. That's because it's dry. Okay, this is a Kolinsky hair, just like our hair. When we've had products on it or gel on it for a while, puff it out, it's gonna puff up. That's why we're gonna need to get into the monomer. As you see, this is a more fuller brush, so I'm gonna spend more time actually cleaning it. And like I said, you have 1 or 2 hairs there sometimes that will just be sticking out. That's, if it doesn't go back in, I would suggest just pulling it and then just pinching it down, and that will keep kind of the root of the hair in there. You're gonna lose 1 or 2 hairs, and during the first, you know, couple of days of usage, your hair is gonna fall out, because remember, you're manipulating the fernal, so maybe it shifts a little bit, so then you might lose 1 or 2 hair. But if you lose too much hair, that means you either over crimped it, or you press it too much and just broke all the sealant in here out. So we gotta be very careful with that, okay? So now I'm just gonna kind of clean my brush a little bit and just see where I want it crimped. You see how it's harder to maintain the shape when it's not crimped? So I'm gonna stick with my logo print. I'm gonna, where the logo is, so when I make content, I'll see my logo. There we go. And I'm gonna go to the same spot, and I'm just gonna press down lightly. Okay, just, you'd be surprised that just a little bit of that can do so much. So, and that will allow me to kind of clean my brush again. Remember, we're just trying to get it trained. Okay, clean our brush a little bit more. Now remember, there's a lot more hair than our size 12, so we have to make sure we get it all clean out. You see that, how it clumps in? If you notice, I'm gonna zoom in for you guys. Oops. Oopsies. I'm gonna zoom in for you guys to show you guys what I mean when I feather through. You see how it clumps in there? That's a lot of the sealant still stuck in there. So you have to really spend some time and clean it out properly to make sure that you don't have any buildup as you're working on your new acrylic brush. Because this is generally this happens a lot to a lot of nail techs, where they'll just think that it's gonna be done. Oh, it's wet, okay, I can pick up a bead. You have to keep in mind that there's a lot of solvent in here, and if you have to soak the brush, see that? It's still sticking together. So, because it's a fuller brush, so there's gonna be a lot more product in there. So I'm gonna just pour myself a little bit more monomer and just kind of clean it properly. Remember, this brush is your investment, okay? You don't want to, you know, rush this and then ruin your investment. These brushes to last you years, you know? See, this is some sticking right here. That's the sealant. Means I gotta soak my brush in and just kind of dab it in there, like so. Light pressure, you don't wanna press too much. You see, I just lost 1 of the hairs in there. It's fine, that's normal when it comes to acrylic brushes. When you first get it, I'm gonna allow the solvent to kind of get in there and just kind of break that out so I can slowly force it out. And of course, you can always, you know, do this, work on clients. See, it's becoming less and less sticky. I still feel a little bit of stickiness here, but a lot less. So we just gotta get more of that sealant in there by dabbing in more. And this is gonna be a very extensive tutorial. Just make sure I crimp all size brushes, because you guys are getting all of my brushes. A lot of people are ordering different sizes, so I have to go through the 16 to make sure that you guys see what I'm doing for each size, because like I said, you're crimping a size 12 and a size 14 may be different. This size 12 turned out perfect, right? And crimping is one thing. At the end of the day, you still have to, you know, train the brush. It means after every client usage, I think I've got hair there. See, pinch it off. All right, I think my 14 should be ready for me to do some application. And we're gonna just zoom in real quick. I'm gonna get some monomer. This is what you're really looking for. See? Nice and shape. Where the crimp is, as always. Let's pick up a bead. Beautiful. You see that little hair right there? I know, I see it too. Don't worry, I'll show you. And that's the pearls you're looking for. And these are Klinsky brushes, so you're gonna remove it. So that little tiny bit of hair there is so annoying to me, right? You see that? All brushes have some type of imperfection. You're gonna pinch it here and you're gonna pull it down. Okay? That'll pinch the hair out, but leave the root inside the brush so that it's not gonna be loose and you're gonna lose too much hair, right? So now, there we go. And this brush is just perfect. I'm gonna can pick up those perfect pearls with this crimp, nice and oval. It's already taken on shape. You see that? This is 100% Kolinsky. So when you release this brush, it's gonna be minimal acrylic stuck to the brush. This is why these brushes will last you for a long time. You know, you gotta be, you know, you see when the brush, when you first break it up in, this is the brush when it's nice and sleek. These are unedited. I know sometimes you see brushes where they're edited, and I show you the rawness of it. This is Kolinsky hair. So Kolinsky hair is very prone to, so I'm gonna clean my brush, make sure there's no acrylic stuck in there, because I'm gonna store these. Okay, I don't feel any, there you go, perfect. So now I'm gonna move on to my 16 brush. For those who are getting the 16 brush. And see that? I'm gonna clean my brush, I'm gonna shape it, I'm gonna maintain this shape. So the monomer is gonna keep it nice and hardened. You see the brush size difference? So now move to the 16. And the reason why I'm very transparent with my brushes is the brush quality is really good. I've used the same manufacturer, I used the same company for a long time, and I trust their product, and they really good quality control. But you see, any brush is gonna look poofy like that when it comes out. You're gonna be worried if it doesn't puff like that, because if it doesn't puff like that, then that means that the hair is synthetic. Like plastic does not change because of weather, humidity. See? I have this one, I'll just remove right now. Anything that I see frays out, I'll just remove it early. And then there's a lot of sealant here. This is the 16, so it's a lot larger. So this is my 16 brush here. So we're gonna clean that. And of course, it's gonna take a lot longer. Sometimes, you know, some companies, they have to put a lot of sealant in there to keep together, because during shipping, heat, and stuff like that, it keeps it together. But I feather through. This will allow you kind of see any imperfections in the brush, anything that's sticking out, that's stray. Remember, that's just perfectly normal when it comes to acrylic brushes. You just gotta be careful and when you remove it. A lot of people will pull the hair out. You don't wanna do that, because it's gonna cause a lot. If it pulls out from here, from the sealant, it's gonna loosen it up, like I said earlier. See that? There's still a lot of sealant in there, right? 16 is gonna be worse than the 20. You can use acetone if you feel like it. I'd rather take a little bit longer on using monomer than acetone, because I don't want to, you know, take away that coating on my brush. But if you have to use acetone, be fine, because, you know, this is a brand new brush. It can handle a little bit of acetone in the beginning. But if I were you, I would definitely use a monomer just in case, so you don't, you know, ruin the brush. And these brushes are all engraved, so you don't have to worry about the logo or, you know, the beautiful finish. It's acetone monomer resistant, so it stays shiny. Unlike, like, you know, some brushes for plastic, you'll get gooped up. That's why I moved to the powder coated aluminum. It allows it to have longer duration. Also, there's a lot of states that require you to have aluminum brushes, no more wood brushes or anything like that for sanitation purposes. So this is why I transition over. I always love, let's see, you'll see a little bit imperfections here and there, just like how that there's a little hair there. I always take care of that early. See, you already see why, right? Remember, these are all put together by hand. It's not machined, so, you know, there are some human errors that we can remedied during that process. And you see there's little hairs here and there. Do not be afraid. Unless you see a bunch of hair falling out, like you're really, like, you know, running issues. But I'm gonna feather through, and I feel like, okay, it's great. Now I'm gonna go in and crimp, and that's the shape I want. So same thing again. You gotta be careful. You see right here, you gotta make sure that this area, I'm not gonna damage your brush, because I'm not gonna clamp down, so this is not gonna cut my brush, so I don't have to worry about that. But I'm gonna give it a little push, and you gotta make sure it's even too. Sometimes the pressure you put on one side will be different on the other side. I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's about a little bit in here. It's gonna give me my nice crimp that's gonna keep my brush in the same shape, beautiful shape I want it. Beautiful. So let's go ahead and do some application with this powder here. 16 brush is my go-to. It's like my flagship bestseller. You see that? The bead is always the same. brush. Any brush you're gonna drop acrylic, gonna be minor residue in here. That's why you gotta clean your brush before you go back in the monomer. And your brush will have that sleek look. Okay. Let's do a few more B's just to make sure it's clean my brush a little bit. So I hope that helped a lot of you guys out. I know this was a long video, but I wanted to make it extensive. I'm gonna shape it, and then we have done the size 12, 14, and 16 from NDS Beauty Pro. And these are really good brushes. I mean, the quality is there. As you can see, you know, everything is engraved, you know, perfection. Beautiful looking brush. We'll have different sizes eventually, also different colors for those of you guys that like, you know, a darker look. We have a gunmetal matte coming soon, but as you can see, this brush is very high quality. I showed you this in real time. There's no editing involved. Everything is as is. So this is what we get. Thank you guys, and you can always like and subscribe, and I will be doing more and more of these type of tutorials for you guys in the future when it comes to brands and product, even gels and anything like that. So I hope that helped a lot of you guys that have purchased your NDS Beauty Pro brushes, and good luck, and make sure you practice. Look at that. Oop, I thought I saw something. Oh no, it was just the hair right here. Okay, make sure you practice on an old brush first, so you can kind of get the hang of it. Kind of get the hang of crimping, so then you'll be able to, you know, do your brush perfectly. And like I said, start small. You can always crimp more, but you cannot uncrimp. Okay, so once again, there we go. Thank you so much, and thank you for all the support, guys. So many new products coming soon. Acrylic brushes are almost sold out. I know everybody's been waiting for it to restock. They're very beautiful. Just amazing feel to it. I can just already tell.